Hello class, welcome to lab number 2. This version of the lab is for students that are using MacBooks with an M series CPU, either M1 or M2. Now before I start going over the instructions, I want to show you what the final result looks like. So allow me to open the hypervisor. And here is my virtual machine. Just turning it on. And I can sign into my user. And there we go. After lab number 3, this is how your virtual machine is gonna look like. But if I sign out of here, I can go back to the other desktop environment. We have all the applications here that we're gonna need, including Visual Studio Code for writing Markdown. So now that I show you how the end result looks like, we're gonna start from scratch. So I'm gonna turn this virtual machine on by clicking on the on button on the corner and then shut down. Just how we would shut down a regular computer. Please avoid closing a virtual machine with the X over here at the top, as it may break the system. So first, I'm gonna delete this virtual machine, and I'm gonna uninstall UTM so that we can start from scratch. Perfect. So note, this lab is exclusive for M1 and M2 series MacBook. If you're looking for the Windows version, then click on lab number 2 over here, installing Ubuntu. Your computer needs to meet the following system resources: either an M1 or M2 CPU, 16 gigabytes of RAM. With 8 gigabytes of RAM, you will be able to work, no problem. I just don't know what configuration of RAM these MacBook computers come with. This was a loan somebody let me borrow so that I could do this lab for you. So I'm just gonna go by what the minimum requirements of these laptops are. But again, I'm pretty sure that with 8 gigabytes of RAM, you should be able to work with. I don't know if they make Macs with 8 gigs of RAM. I sure hope they don't, because that's way too small. That's way too little. I mean, I find 16 too little already. Operating system version, macOS Sonoma or the latest version of macOS. Pretty sure that it works with an earlier version, but that's what I have right now, so that's what I'm gonna put over there. Now, this lab assumes the following about you. You can follow instructions and you have a basic understanding of your computer's hardware. So, with that said, let's not wait any more time and let's get started. Step 1, download a hypervisor. We're gonna be using UTM. So just click on the link over here and then click on download. This is gonna download the installer. I already have mine in the downloads folder, so I don't need to download it again. And finally, download Ubuntu Server ISO file, but for ARM CPU. So just click on the link over here, and then you're gonna find this page that says Ubuntu Server for ARM. Now click on download Ubuntu 22.04, and that is gonna download the ISO file. Do not open this file. We're gonna use that file as is. So I'm gonna cancel this because I already downloaded the file ahead of time. So let me open my file manager and let's go to downloads. Here I have UTM, so I'm just gonna open the DMG file. And to install it, just like any other application, drag it to the applications window and wait for the little bell notification. Now I can close it. Oops, minimize it by mistake. We can close it and then open UTM. Open. And this is our application over here. Now, we finished with the step number 1. Now, let's move along with the step number 2. Let's create a virtual machine. And here I have given you written instructions of everything that you are going to do. So read them or follow along in the video. First, click on create a virtual machine. We have two options here. We're going to virtualize because we're not going to be emulating another CPU architecture. Instead, we're going to be using native ARM. So we're going to click on virtualize. In the operating system window, we're going to click on Linux. We are going to be using Ubuntu server for ARM. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put the ISO file in our virtual DVD drive so that the installer starts. So let's click on browse, and I'm gonna go to downloads, and then here is my file. Again, do not open this file, don't mount it. We need it as is. So we're gonna click on the file and then click on open. Now, all we have to do is click and continue over here. 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's how much I'm gonna give this virtual machine in this Mac, because this Mac has 16 gigabytes of RAM. I'm pretty sure that with 2 gigabytes of RAM you'll be able to work, but let's be safe and give it 4 gigabytes of RAM. Number of cores. Ubuntu requires a dual core machine, so 2 cores is fine. We're not gonna be using OpenGL acceleration, but if you're finding problems with the visuals, you know, the screen is flickering or something like that, you might want to enable OpenGL acceleration. But for now, we're gonna leave that as is because it's an experimental feature at the moment, so we want to keep it safe. Click on continue, and then the amount of storage. 50 gigabytes should be enough for what we are gonna do in the class. But if we have a storage to give, then leave it at 64. I think that 50 should be good enough. Continue, and we're not going to be using a shared directory, but if you feel like you want to use a shared directory, which means a directory in Mac is available in Linux and vice versa, then go find a guide online and enable it later on. But for now, we're just going to leave it as is, no shared directory required. So let's click on continue. Here is the summary. We're going to rename this to Ubuntu desktop, and we're going to click on this over here, open VM settings, click on save. That's gonna open this settings page of the virtual machine the moment we click on OK. Here in the notes, we're gonna type a couple of things. Host name, this is gonna be the name of our computer. It's gonna be called CIS 106. The username is gonna be our root user. We're gonna call it our Blackboard username. Or if you have a preferred username, like your gamer tag, for example, or just something that you always remember, you're welcome to pick that. I like to default to my Blackboard username because it's easy to remember for me. And for the password, we're gonna keep something very simple, just PCCC. We wanna make it this way because we wanna be able to troubleshoot quickly, right? So we don't want to go crazy on anything. You're gonna leave the rest as is. Nothing needs to change from this. So let's click on save. And congratulations, you have built a virtual machine, but the operating system is not installed yet. So we're gonna move along and do a step number 3, install Ubuntu server. Now, because this is Ubuntu server, the installer is very different from what the Windows guys are doing. So you can follow this guy over here that says how to install Ubuntu server. And it is the same guy that we have over here that we're gonna follow. Now, I'm gonna do it on the video anyway, so you can just follow along. And what we're gonna do is, let's open back UTM and click on the big play button over here in the middle. And this installer is very easy to follow. It's mostly default stuff that we're gonna be clicking on. Well, not gonna be clicking on nothing really because it is controlled by mouse, by the keyboard. Now click inside the virtual machine. In this point, your mouse and keyboard are captured by the virtual machine. So everything that you input here is gonna go to the virtual machine. We're gonna press enter over here on try Ubuntu server. Please disregard the display output is not active. It's not important. Okay, so the first thing we need to pick is our language. So English is my default, so I'm gonna click on English. Now here we can continue with the old installer or we can upgrade to the new installer. I always like to update to the new installer because it's super quick and, well, it's new. So now that we have selected our language, we need to select our keyboard language. It will automatically identify the language of your keyboard from your hardware. So we just can click on done over here. So I'm just gonna press enter. And here in these options, we're gonna leave the default, Ubuntu server. Now, click on done. This is gonna get an IP address from my computer. Click on done here. Click on done here. We're gonna leave it blank so that it does it automatically for us. And we're just gonna click on done over here. Now, again, this, leave it as is. So just press the tab key to move along until you get to the done section, right? When done is highlighted, and then click on enter. Here, again, just click on done and just click on continue. This is just letting you know all the changes that are gonna happen to our virtual hard drive. So please click continue, and here we're gonna type the information that we put in our notes earlier. So your name, here again, my Blackboard username. You can put your name and last name if you want, but I like to put my the same as my username over here. It's just a personal preference. Your server name, here I put my computer name, that's the host name, and then your username, again, my Blackboard username, but you have free reign over here on what you want to pick as your username. Just make sure you remember it. Pick a password, so we're gonna type our super extra secure password, and then here we're gonna press on done. Again, to move between options, we use the tab key. We're gonna skip this. We don't want Ubuntu Pro, just regular Ubuntu server, and we do want an OpenSSH server in this machine. So we're gonna press the space bar to select that option, and then tab until we get to done, and press OK. Now here we want none of these microservers. We need none of this. So we're just gonna click on tab and then enter. And now go grab a cup of coffee and wait until the installation is done. I'm gonna pause the video and I'm gonna resume once the installer is done. It takes about 10 minutes or so, just enough time to grab yourself a cup of joe. Now, the installer is already done. Didn't even finish making my coffee. So here, I'm just going to again click on my virtual machine and then reboot now. Press enter and let the virtual machine reboot. We're gonna close the virtual machine right after it reboots anyway, but we need to do this part. So we're gonna wait a little bit. Apologies for the microwave. It seems like the virtual machine is hanged, so all I'm gonna do is just close it. Okay, now before we turn this machine on again, we are going to remove this DVD from here, because if we don't remove it, it's just gonna boot the installer again, and we don't want that. So it seems like it's still running, so I'm just gonna right click and stop it. Yes, stop the virtual machine. Now from here, I'm just gonna click on clear, and now we can start the virtual machine again. Remember to remove the ISO file from the DVD drive. Okay, at this screen, we need to type in our username and password. First the username, and now the password. And we have successfully logged into Ubuntu server. Now, the installation is done. Let's move along to step number 4. We're going to install necessary packages. However, after I built this guide, I realized that there is an easier way to do this. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do an update and an upgrade. And then we're going to put this installation on pause for now. After we do that, we're going to install the desktop session so that we can have a desktop environment that we're going to use throughout the semester. And then we're going to reboot the system. So let's get that started. Sudo apt update. This command is quick, and now we're gonna do an upgrade. Sudo apt upgrade. Let's see how big is our upgrade. It's pretty small. This is how big our upgrade is, 23.6 megabytes. So we're just gonna type Y and enter. It makes sense that the upgrade is so small. The server installation of Ubuntu comes with very little packages on its own. Almost done. And now over here, we're just gonna press tab and OK. To select OK, just press the space bar in your computer, and that's it. Now we're gonna install a desktop environment, and this is gonna take a while. Hopefully I can get to finish my coffee now. Sudo apt install Ubuntu desktop. Yep, a lot of packages. So it's 2 gigabytes of packages that are gonna be downloaded. So just let's grab another coffee. Okay, so when you get to this screen, we're gonna do the same thing. Tab and then OK with the space bar. Now that we have installed a desktop environment, let's restart the virtual machine. So simply type sudo reboot now. Then over here, we're gonna click on our username and we're gonna simply sign in with our password. There is gonna be a welcome wizard and we're just gonna skim through it. Don't worry about this error reporting because we're gonna disable that anyway. Yep, cancel all of that and don't send. We're not gonna use Ubuntu Pro like we established before. No, we're not sending any info. Yeah, no. Click on wait. We don't want this message to appear again. We don't want to enable this location tracking either. And then click on done. Now, what we're gonna do here is I'm just gonna minimize that because I'm gonna go full screen on my Ubuntu machine. Now, if you're having problems with full screen, just avoid doing it. If you're having any graphical glitches or issues, just don't go full screen. In this computer, it seems to be working fine, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna open a web browser. We have Firefox installed by default, and I'm just going to open our CIS 106 website. And now that I'm here in the website, I'm gonna go to my lab, and we're gonna go straight to install necessary packages, which is step 4. Now, this is what I say that we can save time, because before we needed to type all of this, but now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna copy and paste. Just copy and paste. So I'm gonna click on the menu here and I'm gonna open a terminal. So I'm gonna have my terminal on one side and my instructions on another. Just let me resize this a little bit. Perfect. So we already did an update and upgrade. Now we're gonna install the first couple of packages. Again, we're gonna copy and paste. Press enter over here and type your password. Okay, now that my prompt returned, I know that I can type my next command, so I'm gonna copy this and paste over here. You can always do this. Type the first command, 2 $, and then paste the second command. Again, a space, 2 $, and then the third command. And then finally, the last command. These are just some essential packages that we're gonna be exploring over the course of the semester, so I like to get them done as soon as possible. I'll pause the video now and then I'll return once I get my prompt back. Seems like there was an error in one of the commands. Yep, this command here is not typed properly. So this command gave me an issue. So I am going to repeat the command here, but I'm gonna fix this typo over here. I'll make sure to fix the guide so that you don't have to make this mistake. Okay, all the packages have been installed successfully. Let's move on with the step number 5 because we already have this done. Okay, so the first thing is we already did this, not enabling Ubuntu Pro. All error reporting has been ignored. Again, if you have issues with full screen, just unmaximize it. Don't use it in full screen. And then now we're gonna disable the animation so that the machine looks snappier or feels snappier. The desktop animations are this. Notice that when I click on show applications, there seems to be no animation, seems to be already disabled, but we're gonna run the command anyway, just to be sure. Done. Now we're gonna remove some applications that we don't need. The command that we need is this one. Again, just copy the command, paste it on the terminal, enter, and then Y, enter over here. So now we're gonna change from WLAN to XOR, which is our display protocol. We're gonna change that because an application that we are gonna be using, Flameshell, is not supported in WLAN yet. So we're gonna have to use XOR for now. So I'm gonna close this terminal, close Firefox, then click on the on button over here, and then click on power off or log out, and then log out. Click on log out. Click on your username, type your password, but before you press enter, click on the gears icon located in the bottom right corner, and then select Ubuntu on XOR. Press enter over here. And you shouldn't notice any difference at all. Let's go back to our website and back to step number 5, and we are here in this step. Now we are going to install some very useful applications that we are gonna need. So we're gonna copy this and we're gonna type it in our terminal. So press enter over here. These are some graphical applications that we are gonna need. So we're just gonna get them out of the way now, so that whenever we need them, they are already installed. Okay, now let's install Ubuntu Restricted Extras, which is a collection of packages that are not open source, but that we're gonna need nonetheless. There is a little message, well, a user license and agreement that we need to accept over here. So again, press the tab key, space bar for OK, arrow key to yes, and then a space bar again for agreeing to the license and agreement. This is almost done. Perfect. So now we have already changed the display from WLAN to XOR. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make that change permanent. So we're gonna edit this file and uncomment this line over here. So all we have to do is copy this command to open a text editor with administrative privileges, and then go to line number 7, remove the number sign or pound sign, click on save, and you can close it. And that's it. So now we're gonna replace the current screenshot tool with an application called Flameshot that is gonna allow us to do a little bit more with our screenshot. You can see the GIF over here for an example. So now just click on the applications menu and type preferences or settings, either or. Then click on the little magnifying glass at the top and type keyboard. Scroll all the way down until you get to view and customize shortcuts. Scroll again all the way to the bottom where it says custom shortcuts. Then here click on add shortcut and make sure that you're spelling this correctly. Flameshot is the name. Flameshot GUI is the shortcut. And then click on set shortcut. Right here, press the print screen key on your keyboard or any combination of characters that you want to trigger this program from. I have in my keyboard a dedicated print screen key, but I don't know if you have one in your Mac or not. So you can either choose a combination of keys or a specific key if you have one. Whoops, seems that that key is not working, so I'm gonna have to go with a combination. I'm gonna choose control, oops, sorry, right here, control, let me click it again. Gonna have to do it all over again. Flame shot, and then flame shot GUI. Now set keyboard shortcut. I'm gonna do Control Shift 5. Oh, Control Super 5. There you go. So whenever I press Control Super 5, Flame Shop is gonna be activated. So let me give it a test. Control Super and 5. Oh, Control Super 5. Seems like there is something else over there. Let's troubleshoot this together. Control Super and 5. Just gonna change it to something else then. Control Option 5. How about then Option 5? Okay, Alt 5 or Option 5. Let's see if this one works as expected. Option 5. Yep, perfectly. Again, do the same thing as I did. Play around with a keyboard combination of keys that feels comfortable to you. So now that we have Flame Shot enabled, we are going to move along to the next step. Step number 7, installing VS Code. Now this one is a little tricky, so please follow along with me. We're gonna download the ARM64 version of VS Code. So simply Google VS Code. Click on download. Then when you get to the download screen, you're gonna click on this one here. That DEV and then the ARM64 version. So this one over here, ARM64. This is gonna download a Debian package. And to install it, you can simply click it. This is gonna open a menu like this. We're gonna click on software install and then click on open. We can do it with a command line as well, but we're gonna cover that in another lecture. Then click on install and type your password. Wonder why it's taking so long. Just cancel it, do it one more time. Okay, we're gonna do it manually then. I guess I don't have the patience to do it graphically. Who would have thought? In your terminal, type the following: sudo apt install period / downloads code, and then press the tab key on your keyboard and it will autocomplete the package that we downloaded. Press enter, and this should do the install via the command line. This is the command over here again. Sudo apt install period / downloads, and then code, and use the tab key for autocomplete. Now that VS Code is installed, we are going to install the following markdown extensions. So simply open VS Code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just gonna copy this. Command Shift P. Again, Command Shift and P to open the command the command prompt to type VS Code commands, and then paste Command Shift P or Control Shift P, depending on how you have your keyboard set. There you go, Control P, sorry, my mistake, Control P. Then paste, why isn't that copy from clipboard? Perfect. Now let's install the next one. Again, just copy this. In VS Code, do Control P, and then paste that command in the bar. Next one. And now let's verify that all of our extensions are installed. Perfect. We can close VS Code now because we are not going to need it yet. Now that we have finished setting up VS Code, we need to set up Git and GitHub in our virtual machine. The steps are right over here, so we're going to follow them one by one. So step 1, sign into your GitHub account. Now let me get my username and password. github.com. Sign in. And amazing. Okie dokie, let me reset my password in the meantime and we'll get back to you. Perfect. Okay, now we're back on track. Let's keep it pushing. So now that we're signed into GitHub, let's move on. Set up your global username and your global email address. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our life a little easier. So there is a chance that throughout the semester you might be needing these commands again. So we're gonna save them somewhere. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open a text editor. let's copy this command here. Your username is right here. And here you need to put your email address. In my case, this is my email address, or the one that I use for this GitHub account. And we're simply gonna copy this and paste it in our terminal. Again, make sure you replace my values for your values. And that is done. Next, we're gonna do SSH authentication so that we can push changes to our GitHub repository. We're gonna copy this command again, and we're gonna paste it right over here. Over here, you need to put your email address. This is my email address. Copy this command, paste it in your terminal over here. For this, we're simply gonna press enter. This is the location of our SSH key. We're not gonna use a passphrase for now, so again, we're not gonna use a passphrase. This is a testing account, no biggie. But in production, I suggest you use a passphrase. Now, we're gonna copy this command over here to display our SSH key on the screen. We're gonna copy this key, and then we are going to go to GitHub, Settings, SSH and GPG keys, new SSH key, paste it over here. Make sure you remove the trailing space, and then give it a name. I'm gonna call this VM on Mac M1. Again, make sure you don't have trailing spaces over here, only a single line. Add SSH key. And now we're gonna test this connection. So copy this command and then paste it right over here in your terminal. Press enter, type yes, the whole word yes, and press enter. If you see this message over here, you have successfully authenticated with SSH. If you see an error message, you have a typo in your SSH key, and you need to go and fix it. Now we're gonna clone our GitHub repository. Again, copy this command from here. Let's paste it in a text editor and put the proper values in place. So I'm just gonna copy the name of my repository from here. And you see the colon over here? We are going to remove all of this. And this is where we're gonna put our GitHub username / our repository. Again, your username / your repository. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Make sure that you are not making any typos here, because that is gonna break. So, as you can see, clone git at github.com, and then your username / your repository name. Copy this command and paste it in your terminal. Perfect. Now open a file manager, and you're gonna notice that you have a CIS 106 folder in your home directory. This is your local repository. It should match what you have in your GitHub repository. Notice I have 3 folders over here. I have 3 folders over here. Now, you have completed the SSH setup. Let's move along to the next step. Time to submit the lab. First, we're gonna organize the repository. Now, Before I can show you what I mean, I'm gonna make a mess of my repository and then I'm gonna organize it so that you see. Because I am making this video after the Windows video was already made, so my repository is already organized. So bear with me 1 second. I'm gonna pause the recording for a moment. Okay, so your repository as it is right now should look like this, right? That's how your repository is supposed to look like, because you just finished lab number 1 and week report 1. And in my computer, my local repository should look like this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna organize this, because as the semester progresses, you are gonna have a lot of files in here, and nobody likes a mess of files. So we're gonna create a new folder. This is gonna be a master folder for week reports. All one word, please, no spaces. And then labs, good. And then we are gonna have also a folder for cheat sheets. And then we're gonna have a folder for your final project. Although this is gonna be empty anyway for now, so you're not gonna see it in GitHub. And then one for notes. I believe it's called notes in the instructions here. So lab, week reports, final exam, cheat sheets, and notes. Good. I don't know why it's called final exam. It should be called final project, not final exam. Now let's go back here to our file manager. And what we're gonna do is I am going to open home in a new window. So we're gonna graphically change this. I'll put them side by side. And then here we are in our CIS repo. We're gonna go inside CIS again. So we're gonna start moving things around. So first I'm gonna go inside labs. And which files are gonna go in labs? Well, first of all, I'm gonna create a folder here called lab 1 because I finished lab number 1. Let's go inside lab number 1. So we know that for lab 1, we did resume.png. So I'm gonna drag and drop it. Resume.pdf as well, resume.md. Also, we did the John Doe info file, the image of Ubuntu, the Ubuntu.pdf, Ubuntu.txt, the logo as well. This file also goes in here, and Ubuntu.md as well. That's for lab number 1. Now I know that this, and the GitHub page of John Doe photo goes in lab number 1 as well. We know that lab number 1 now is been organized. That's good. Now go back to CIS 106, then go to week reports. Then over here, we're gonna create a folder. We're gonna call it WR1 for week report 1. Go inside the folder, and then we're gonna move the files from week report number 1 here. And then the last file that we have is the cheat sheet for Markdown, so we're gonna put it in cheat sheets. Now I can close this, and I can close this as well because I do not need it. Now we're gonna save this, but before we save it, we are gonna put some notes in this document. So first, this is clone my repo. This one over here is for adding SSH key. And then this over here is global config, right? This is important to keep them labeled over here because like I mentioned, you are gonna come back to this file eventually. So I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna put it in my documents folder. I'm gonna call this git commands notes.txt. Good. I'm gonna close that file and then I'm gonna return to my submission. I already organized my repository. Now I'm gonna open the CIS 106 folder in VS Code. So first of all, let's open VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Then let's click on Open Folder. And we're gonna open the CIS 106 folder. Simply click on it once and then click on Open. Yours should look just like mine. Yes, throws the authors of this file. And now inside labs, we're gonna create another folder called lab number 2, as you see over here. So create a folder, we'll call it lab 2. I think this folder got created in the wrong place. Yeah, it did. So we're gonna delete this. Let's click once, and now let's create the folder lab 2. Perfect. Make sure that your folder looks like mine over here. It's very important. Again, we have two folders, one for lab 1, one for lab number 2. Now click on lab number 2 and create a file. This file should be called lab2.md. Again, make sure that yours look like mine. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So that you see labs, lab 1, lab 2, and then inside lab 2, we create lab2.md. So now we are going to copy this markdown. Let's paste that over here. And let's save the file. We need these two screenshots, so that's exactly what we're gonna take now. Let's minimize VS Code for now, and in our terminal, let's clear the screen by typing the clear command, and we're gonna type the following command, neo fetch. Scroll up a little bit, and let's take a screenshot of this. Now, there are two ways. We can simply launch Flameshot with the command that we specified earlier. In my case, it was Control 5, I think it was. There you go. Option 5, it was in my case. You can also search for the application called Flameshot and then launch it from the applications menu with no problem. So now, once you have selected the terminal, simply click on Save. We're gonna save this inside the CIS 106 folder, then go inside Labs, then go inside Lab number 2. Look at the path right over here. Now we're gonna name this neofetch.png. Click on Save. Now let's clear the screen again, and we're gonna type this command here, but instead of typing, we're just gonna copy and paste. Copy, then paste. Press enter, and let's take a screenshot of this as well. I'm gonna do this one manually so that you see what I mean. So click on the applications menu, search for Flameshot, and now you have a little icon over here that you can click, and then simply click on take a screenshot. That is in case you don't wanna use the keyboard shortcut. Now we're gonna click on save. Then we're gonna call this one a script.png. Make sure you're saving it inside lab number 2. Save. I'm gonna disable notifications because those things are annoying. Click on the terminal, close the terminal. Now in VS Code, if you right click and preview the file, you should see the screenshots right over here, because notice that the names here match the names of the files. If you don't see them over there, please troubleshoot your markdown as you have been doing since lab number 1. So we're gonna close this, and we're gonna right click and then click on export to PDF. Hopefully I get an error. Yes, good. Now, if you get an error message, which you are 100%, there is a solution for this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the gears icon, then manage extension. Then click on the gears icons again, and then click on extension settings. We're gonna scroll down to where it says markdown, executable, there you go, markdown PDF executable path. We need to install the Chromium browser and then put the executable path over here. Now, I documented this over here where it says non-issues. So copy this command to install the Chromium browser. Now, the first time that I did this, it actually froze the VM. So I have to close it, but I didn't lose any work, so you should be fine. This is just a workaround because what can be done? If it doesn't work natively, we need to find a way to make it work. Perfect. It took a little while, but it got there, so that's a good thing. Now, this is the path for Chromium. How do you find it? Simply, you type where is, and then Chromium. Come on, don't I have Chromium? browser. And as you can see, oh, interesting, it gave me this as the executable. Let's try this first. It's possible because I haven't launched the Chromium browser. So let's launch the browser first. And by the way, you can use this if you don't want to use Firefox. That's totally fine. Okay, perfectly. So we're going to copy this path over here, because that's the one that appeared over here. I don't know why the first time it appears as a snap. And we're going to paste it right over here. Let's make sure that this launches Chromium no problem. Yeah, it does. There you go. Perfect. Now we're going to try to generate the PDF one more time. And perfectly, the PDF has been generated for us, is right over here. So it should load with no problem in the PDF preview. And you have successfully completed lab number 2. So I have a couple of closing marks over here. So let me explain them real quick. Now, special note, you are going to use the Git commands a lot. So learn the order: pull, add, commit, and push. We're going to see them in practice now. This here is a cheat sheet of the Git commands. I'm going to try to include this in pretty much every lab. You need to remember these commands. So open your Git commands node over here that we save in documents and make sure you put this over here. So whenever you forget the Git commands and in which order you have to run them, you have a place that you can just go and take a look at an example. And finally, this last line over here. Good. Now let's open VS Code. And here we're going to open the VS Code terminal. So please click on terminal and then new terminal. This is going to open a terminal. The only use that we have for this terminal is to type the Git commands. We're not going to use this terminal for anything else in the entire class. So I don't want to see nobody working on that terminal. Don't make things harder for yourself. We are going to use that terminal for the sole purpose of the Git command. I repeat. So Git pull. You notice that there is a little bit of ghosting when I'm typing here. If this annoys you, if this is making it impossible for you to type the commands, there is another solution for this. But I'm going to type this first, then I'm going to show you a workaround. Press enter over here. Now git add period. And then git commit -m. Yeah, this is almost impossible to do. Lab 2 complete. And now git push. Again, this is very difficult to do in the VS Code terminal. I don't know why the ARM version of VS Code does this. Could be the hypervisor. I mean, it could be the fact that we don't have a OpenGL acceleration. I don't know. But unfortunately, this is what we got, so we have to work with what we have. So what I recommend you to do is this. When you are done with your lab, when you're done with your work, you're done for the day, you did what you needed to do this. Open a file manager, go to your CIS 106 folder. Over here, right click and click on open terminal. Then type your GitHub commands here. Type your Git commands there. Again, I'm gonna do it again. Open your file manager. This is garbage, I don't even know why it's there. Go to your CIS 106 folder. Right click in an empty area. Open terminal. Then type your Git commands from here. Git pull. Git add period. Git commit -m. Finished. Lab 2. And then git push. That's it. Remember to run the commands from this folder. If you're having issues with this, contact me. I'll help you out, but contact me early. Okay, now in Blackboard, what are you gonna give me? Very simple. You are gonna give me the URL to your GitHub repository, but specifically you're gonna give me labs. Go to lab number 2, then open the markdown file. You're gonna give me this URL in Blackboard, and you're gonna upload the PDF file of lab2.md. Again, the URL to this file and lab2.pdf. With that said, if you're encountering any issues while you're doing this lab, let me know and we can start a Zoom session and try to troubleshoot together. I need to return this laptop tomorrow, so that is it. That is all. This is working fine so far, but we never know. See you in class.